there have been events where the opposition leader has now abandoned his party. He is talking of charting new ways out of the CCC. Look, that is his choice. If he goes that way, we want to hail, to congratulate those in the CCC who have been fighting for the party to have proper constitution, to have proper structures, and to have a tangible organization. A few topical issues which have arisen in the course of the recent days, which we felt it was important to get a sense of direction from the part of the permanent Zimbabwe revolution. The president has been on leave. He was taking a well-deserved rest. He's coming back. He has come back to work. He's coming back to work, and he's a grinder. He's a hard worker, and he's starting on a very high note in terms of our internal political dynamics, which is the meeting of Gukra Hundu with the chiefs, the traditional chiefs in Matabeleland South yesterday. We hailed the president for being true to his word, that he will leave no stone unturned in addressing any grievances emanating from our history. You have seen him move on the question of the global global compensation agreement, which addresses the white community, especially in relation to the fact that over the years, infrastructure which is helping build Zimbabwe's agriculture is owed to the colonial era, notwithstanding that the colonial era started on a bad note when our people were expropriated land after military defeat. But that as it may, the constitution makes a distinction between the land and the improvements which have been upon the land, because those improvements belong to the economic body politic of Zimbabwe. They are currently contributing to the revival and growth of our agricultural economy, those improvements. So it was proper that the constitution recognizes those improvements upon the land, and that due compensation be accorded to those improvements upon the land as distinct from the land itself. This has been very good because it has also made it possible to accommodate our white population. We do have in Africa a sizable white population owing to history. They are citizens of Zimbabwe, as deserving to be citizens as any other. And if you look at the racial tolerance index of countries, of nations, Zimbabwe ranks among the highest in the world. People here don't look at your color when you are getting married. They don't look at your color when you are going to church. They don't look at your color when you are going to sports. We just look at you as a human being. So this has done a lot to make our white population feel that they are part of the new Zimbabwe, where the president says no one will be left behind. We are not only looking at people in the rural areas who have been historically disadvantaged because of the colonial economy, but we are also looking at those aspects during the redress of the colonial era grievances which may have marginalized sections of our population. And the white population, let's admit, they have tentacles as being part of the Anglo-Saxon world. They have tentacles all over the world. They do have influence coming from the association with the biggest economies in the world. And they've been to Canada, they've been to South Africa, they've been to New Zealand, and they've been to all over. They are a very active part of our population. And if they feel that they want to identify with the home of their original birth of Zimbabwe, so be it. This is This is a country where everybody feels that he must identify with its success, with its future. So the president has made it possible for the white population to begin to feel so much part of the Zimbabwean economy. And we see it with the collaboration which is going on in our agricultural revival. It takes full advantage of their historical knowledge about farming, about mining, about many other things, which made the colonial economy be what it was before. But the president is taking it to another level, this economy. What he's doing is he is shedding off the skin of the colonial economy and making it a global economy, because that's what Zimbabwe deserves, a full global economy. And when it is a full global economy, it requires every citizen, regardless, to be put his shoulder to the wheel. So that's what the president is doing by the Global Compensation Agreement. But he's now taking it further to our historical divisions. We unfortunately gave the world a divided liberation movement in the 1960s, when ZAPU and ZANU split. And we carried the National Liberation War, foisting upon the world a divided national liberation movement. We strove hard during the process to find each other. Unfortunately, sometimes you make missteps, but the saving grace is that we never made missteps which made the civil war become the case of Zimbabwe. No, we didn't. We looked at the brink, and we didn't want to jump over the brink. And when the president says, I'm reaching out the Gukurahound victims so that we address issues which are emanating from that unfortunate era, it is a good thing on the part of our president. It demonstrates his sincerity, that he is leaving no one and no region behind. And we also want to applaud the traditional chiefs in Matebeleren, because they are the ones who have the victims of those people. Once somebody is dead, you belong to your family, you belong to your village, you belong to your chief. So these are the issues. It's right and proper that they are the ones who are at the forefront of this aspect of our national reconciliation, of our finding each other as Zimbabweans. And the president is living true to his word, that he's sincere in all his dealings, whether they be at national or they be at regional or they be at global level. So we want to say to that process, we wish it all the best, and the resources to make it succeed are being committed, and no stone, I'm sure, knowing the president, the way our president grinds, no stone, no resource will be left wanting to make sure that this issue is once and for all addressed, so that Zimbabweans can move forward in unison as a united nation, regardless of gender, regardless of creed, regardless of religion, regardless of color, regardless of race, and regardless of even inability or incapacitation. We want to move Zimbabwe as a united nation. So this is a good thing, and the president has put his right foot forward on this particular matter, and he has started the year rightly and properly with this particular issue, which will make sure that never again will this happen to our society, that we fall out each other in a manner which we did. But more important, we yank away from detractors that tendency of trying to use historical grievances to continue to foment present differences. We have no reason to use the historical past as a driver of disunity, of vindictive settling of scores, and of relentlessly trying to seek revenge. If you do that, you always are looking through the rear view mirror. You are not watching through the windshield as to where you are going. The president is firmly focused on watching through the windshield and going forward. He is not interested in constantly looking through the rear view mirror. So we applaud this process which is going on. We we are happy with this process at national level. There is something which is momentous, which happened yesterday, where our regional heavyweight, South Africa, has been pursuing a case of unrolling genocidal tendencies in Gaza against the Palestinian population of that strip, and Israel is carrying out a heinous war against Gazans, where a horrendous act of violence may have happened, but it still is no justification for visitation of a whole population with punitive action bordering on genocide. There is no reason whatsoever to justify what is going on in the Gaza Strip. And South Africa defied the weight of a negative Jewish lobbying, particularly in the powerful nations of the West, to take this case to the United Nations Court, which is the International Court of The Hague. And judgment was rendered yesterday in favor, basically, of South Africa. Mm-hmm. We feel proud that an African nation has taken the gumption to actually take this matter to the international arena of justice and the International Court of Public Opinion. And we feel proud that they've done justice to the conscience of humanity by taking on the powerful Israeli lobby and even putting into jeopardy their financial and other relations which they may want to enjoy with the West, their powerful banking institutions which have allegiances to certain views about what is going on between Israel and Palestine. But South Africa did not say our interests first. They said justice to humanity is more important. So we feel proud as Africans, as their neighbors, that they discharged this role on behalf of Africa, but also on behalf of humanity. And we say to the world, we salute President Ramaphosa. We hail the Foreign Minister, Miss Paledi Nando, for what she has done. She has braved through a lot of negative publicity, even probably trying to impinge upon herself, her personality. But because we belong to the Southern African region, which saw massacres and wars being waged, against bigotry, against apartheid, against racism. We know, we've traveled this road. We know what went on in Zimbabwe. We know what went on in Mozambique. Our minds are etched with massacres of people who were using racism, racist bigotry as the driver of their national political realization. We are no stranger to this, and we know that the Jews have been victims in history, but we actually hope that because they've been victims, they can empathize with what we Southern Africans feel about what is going on in Palestine. There is nothing which says that Palestinians and Jewish should always be at each other's throats. We're being told the same, that Africans and whites in this region will always be at each other's throats. But we had the note I started on the global compensation agreement. We are living together here. You can't believe that my generation went through the horrors of war to be where we are today. In South Africa, equally the same. They went through, but they built a rainbow nation. So this is a good thing that South Africa has championed this case. We feel good about Africa. We really feel good about Africa, that we are placing our right foot forward in terms of international diplomacy, in terms of driving for a more humane and just human economic order, political order in the world. So well done, South Africa, for winning the court at the ICJ, and a byproduct, a very pleasant byproduct of this engagement with the courts by South Africa is putting the issue of a two-state solution between Palestine and Israel right at the center of international diplomacy. No matter what the extremists in Israel may say, the die is cast. And even the Americans now have to come out clearly and unequivocally to say that Palestinians must have their own state. The EU has come out unequivocally saying that Palestinians must have their state. Kunaka, kushata kwezimu, kunaka kwezimu. So the struggle of the Palestinians in this instance has not been in vain now, because the idea of a two-state solution is now etched in granite in international diplomacy and in international statecraft. This is a good thing, and we welcome the boldness which is now coming out of Brussels and Washington to say this is the way to go. We have no gratuitous angling to be constantly against the former colonial powers of the Berlin Conference. No, we don't have. We just want a society which is fairer and just to all. So this is a good thing, that what has happened on the issue of the two-state solution. I want to go further and say there have been events where the opposition leader has now abandoned his party. He is talking of charting new ways out of the CCC. Look, that is his choice. If he goes that way, we want to hail, to congratulate those in the CCC who have been fighting for the party to have proper constitution, to have proper structures, and to have a tangible organization. You can't have an amorphous entity thriving on what is called strategic ambiguity, trying to assume the mantle of running a country. We all, as human beings, live on structures because we work socially together. Social because we have conscious brains which put us together, and so that we can use our hands to achieve things in a collective manner. That is the distinctive aspect about human beings from other animals. Now, if you eschew organization and you say we don't want organization, yet you want to be a leader, we're running a country. This is a dichotomy. This is a contradiction. It was bound to catch up with Chamisa, and it has finally done so. Strategic ambiguity has consumed its author. Arumwange chekuchera Chamisa, because he did not want a party with structures, with a constitution, with an organization. He didn't want. And we are very happy that the original members of this party, the original people who formed this party, are reasserting themselves, because what clearly happened in Buhera was a usurpation of power. The refuge in strategic ambiguity was simply a camouflage for dictatorial tendencies by one individual. That's why it was one individual trying to usurp power from an organization which had been built by others. And for your own information, the organization which the MDC was founded upon is owed to Zanu PF. This Anyamukuta, CCC, formerly MDC. This party came from the trade union movement. There were no recognized trade unions before 1980. They were illegal. They were being hounded. They were being associated with the political African nationalism, because that's where African nationalism comes from. Joshua Nkomo, our revered founder, he came from the Railway Workers Union in Bulawayo. So organization came from the recognition of the trade unions by Zanu PF. and Comrade Kangai and many others, you remember, they were very active at independence, putting together what became the trade union movement of Zimbabwe. Along the way, we had it being hijacked. It was not, that there should be an opposition, it's constitutional. So we had no problem with the formation of the MDC. But that they then used the workers' movement to compromise the very basis upon which they had been founded, which is anti-colonial nature of Zanu PF, because that is the foundation upon which the original MDC was founded in the trade union movement. Then they abandoned that, then they started campaigning with the foreigners. That's where we had a difference. So now that the original roots of CCC, MDC are reasserting themselves, we welcome that direction. And as for Chamisa, you see, organizations have a way of making somebody accountable. Ukatiza chikwata, you can ask what happens to an impala when it runs out, when it leaves the head. An impala bull, when it leaves the head and starts frolicking on its own. The lions out there, they are on the lookout because you are on your own. There is something good about belonging to an organization. But because he has never built one, he believes in strategic ambiguity. It's painful to build organizations. Along the way you make mistakes, but along the way you acquire an ethos, an institutional capacity to deal with issues. That is singularly absent from Chamisa's mind. Yet he is now wanting to out. So we say to him, we wish you well where you are going to start building a party. You can now understand what Zanu PF went through from the 60s, building the party to where it is today. And we wish him well in whatever venture he will be trying to do to succeed. But the organization has got a way to make you be accountable. There are books which have to be looked up. There are assets. There were funds which were received in different names. They were applied in one way or the other. We hear constant complaints by MDC membership, CCC membership, which went to campaigns and were supposed to be paid and they were not paid. Now that you are no longer in charge of that organization, you have decided to abandon it. I hope the books don't disappear too when you abandon it, because the books remain. And people who have scores of administrative accounts to settle, they cannot be stopped because you may have the sympathies of outsiders from London, or because you were either working in accordance or in infringement of the laws of the land. So now I think he has to take full cognizance of the act of leaving the party which he has done from two aspects. One, the challenge of Chamisa finally being called upon to build an organization. Ambo timbomona achiumba chake chinonzi chachamisa sezvinoita vana vadiki vachiumba mombe dzerondo kubani wachifudza mombe. We want to see him. That is the challenge before him. But secondly, there is another challenge. He has to account for the days when he took over an organization called the MDC CCC with its structures and its administrative mechanisms and its finances and everything, because he was at the helm of it for that particular time. He has now, I hope that he is not jumping to spend all his time in the courts giving evidence against all the people who may have claims and counterclaims against these days when he was at the helm of the CCC MDC. And the courts, you cannot be immune from the courts of the land. You have to announce to surrender yourself before the courts of the land. And judging by the grievances of those who formed the party, who are now coming back to claim it, they have a whole gamut of grievances. And these are not coming from Zanu PF. Please, this is an internal matter of people who fall out among themselves. We have constantly appealed to him. strive for unity and love within your party. Because that's what we do in Zanu PF. Why we don't fracture in Zanu PF is because we have an institutional memory of building an organization from scratch. I may have my ambitions as Christopher. Everybody who goes into politics may have his ambitions. But I know that they are best realized when they are within the body politic of Zanu PF because of the institutional memory of organization which it has garnered over the years. If I try to move out on your own, no matter how much I think I'm smart, it will catch up because I am taken out of the institutional capacity of the experience of which has been built over the years. So the people who build the party have reasserted themselves. The one who usurped the party has run away. Let's see how it sorts out there. Pachana kids, I can assure you. The drama is about to unfold, and we will be watching. We will be watching the political theater, which is now coming into the CCC, MDC, and its ramp. Yes, we have. I'm the chairman of the War Veterans Association. I'm also the minister of the Heroes of the Liberation Struggle of Zimbabwe. We have the announcement of the death of Comrade Colonel Mabuya, a painful event in the history of the party of the Zimbabwe Revolution and from the ranks of those who fought for the independence of Zimbabwe. We are very happy as war veterans that the president conferred him with national hero status. I will be going there tomorrow as the minister to mourn with the family. It's a heavy occasion for us, Comrade Kenredzai, because of post-independence vagaries and of course growing age. It's 40 years since independence. Some of the issues, some of his exploits may not now be fully recognized by AMA 2K. But he is a young man who at 15 years joins the liberation struggle in Zambia. And over the years, he has been responsible for helping build the structures of what ZANLA forces became, and of course, which became ZANLA and ZIPRA, the defense forces. It was never easy. I told you yesterday, earlier on, about the challenges of building an organization. There were few people at that particular time in the 70s. The challenges were indomitable, but he grappled with them to then form a training corps, an original and homegrown military training corps of what becomes ZANLA forces. By the time the message of the war reaches out to the thousands upon thousands of Zimbabwe, we now had our own experienced training corps. It became easy for the young people who went to war as of 1974 in big numbers to go and be trained and come back quickly, because we're no longer relying on people from far away, from China, from Russia, from Cuba to train. We now had our own training corps, and he was part of that training corps, which turned the many young people from the 70s who went to war into the cadres and quickly made them be redeployable at the front, so that the pace of the struggle could gather momentum at an unprecedented scale. So in 4 years, from 75 to 79, we had brought the Zimbabwean regime to heel, the mighty the Rhodesian regime to heel. This is where Kenny Rizai belongs. I went to war in 75. There were challenges I want to tell you about building that army. It's not easy to make people coming from everywhere become one army. And over the years, the war had become concentrated in the northeast. So there was an identification of the war with a particular region at that time when we went to war. It was for us, we were coming from urban areas and come from other regions. When we saw Comrade Ken Ridzai, who was from an urban setting in Lusaka, and who was also Ndebele speaking, was speaking on the side of Zanla forces at that time. They were, I told you earlier on, were the misfortune of giving the world a divided liberation. It became a sense of inspiration and relief that this army is collective. We all belong to it. And it was easy to mold us into a fighting force within the shortest possible period. We owe this to the people like Henry there. He made me, coming from university, feel very much at home with the challenges of being made into a member of the Zanla forces. I was at Tembwe, where he was, I saw a young man who was trained, was using a camera to take pictures of us as we were. I said, oh, they actually take, somebody knows how to use the camera here. This is, and then the next thing, I had a colleague from the university who spoke Ndebele, and he had accompanied me. And I was always unsure, because now there were these divisions within. And Comrade Kelly speaking Ndebele to everybody, and we felt this army belongs to all Zimbabweans. So this is some things which come out from cadres like him, which we want the young people to know, that it was not easy to mold the army, which is now the Zimbabwe Defense Forces, and he was involved. And the security apparatus, which he owes now to our present National Security and Intelligence, he was one of the co-founders to professionalize the security and intelligence service, so that you just don't accuse people willy-nilly to rimtenges. You actually go to the extent of finding evidence to say munumutenge, so that you don't arbitrarily dispense with either the services or the life of another comrade on spurious grounds. Ken Ridzai helped set up what is our present National Security and Intelligence Service. So it's right that he be made a national hero. We could have done more for him in post-independent Zimbabwe, but there were challenges, especially in the First Republic, about recognizing the role of the war veterans and that's why we had the events leading to 2017. And we are very happy that President Mnangagwa has since re-established the Ministry of War Veterans Affairs. He is living at a time when the President is doing great things in terms of the economy, and the war veterans are very much part of the agenda of the President in the signature projects which are going on in the country. We feel that had he waited a little bit longer, he could be going to tell the war veterans that what you fought for is now being realized, because they wanted prosperity for Zimbabwe, and President Mnangagwa is being to deliver on that prosperity. We really think that the President is fulfilling the covenant of those who fought the war, to say, no matter my life, Zimbabwe must become a prosperous nation. And Comrade Ken Ridzai is in that tradition. So we'll be going to his mourning tomorrow, whilst we await the burial, which we are very confident will be attended by the head of state and superintended by him, because he worked with Comrade Ken Ridzai, the current president, to set up this national security intelligence apparatus of the National Liberation Movement, which is now our present national security agencies, which are very much respected on the African continent. We are respected. We are homegrown, we are originals. And we mine on our institutional capacity of winning a modern war against the foremost imperial army of the time. So our kudos are built on our solid achievements in terms of the People's War, which we fought for the independence of Zimbabwe. I will divert a little bit because I'm the Secretary of Information of the party. There have been changes now at the boards of the Ministry of Information, with new boards coming in. Unfortunately, along the way, there have been some aspersions cast upon the performance of some of the former board members. We want to say, as a party, those boards and their chairmen performed sterling work during their term of office. They are the ones who superintended the information and publicity drive of the party during the elections which we won. They delivered an information victory for the party, those board members, at ZBC and at Zim Papers and at elsewhere. They did a sterling job. They were selected in some instances personally by the head of state. I definitely know that Chairman Tai of ZBC was selected by the president. Everybody knows this is a professional doctor, and everybody knows what he did to save the president in 2017 after the poisoning which happened in Rwanda. Everybody knows Comrade Tommy Stole, the former chairman of Zim Papers, a professional in the media field, but a long-time cadre of the party, even in the days when we were in the National Liberation War. He is an accomplished sports administrator with footprints even in the International Olympic Committee. And the president literally had to cajole him, I use the word cajole him, to make him become the president of Zim Papers. Not only did he do a good professional job, he also ran the institution well. It made money. It is making money by the Lord. So he's a man of exceptional achievements. We would not like people of that caliber to feel that after rendering such service to the president, to the party, and to the organization, there is an impingement on their professional standing. No. They are competent Zimbabweans who loved their country, who render service. And my department will be going to the president to make sure that we will throw a party for them here at the party headquarters to recognize the sterling work they did in their term of office, particularly surrounding their covering of the national elections, where every aspect was being made to cast our elections in a bad light. They defended the integrity of the Zimbabwean electoral process, and that is a domain of information. They did a good job. Of course, we will be extending the invitation to that party, to the Minister of Information and his team, so that they can come to the party of the revolution and fully understand that we work as a team and we tap on the professional competence of Zimbabweans, their history, their patriotic credentials when boards are being selected, and that they serve. If they serve the president, they need to be recognized. So I just felt that we want to put it on record that thank you, Comrade Tommy Stole and your board. Thank you, Comrade Tai and your board at ZBC. You did a great work, and I know that the other board members who were working with them at a particularly difficult time in terms of safeguarding the integrity, a difficult and challenging time, the integrity of our electoral processes. I think by and large that's what I wanted to say to you today, and I'm open to questions. We are very happy with the progress we are making with the British, with the Australians, with the other Commonwealth members. We are hoping that at the next Commonwealth Summit, Zimbabwe will be a member of the Commonwealth again. We also recognize that this is the year of the dragon. In a couple of days' time, the Chinese New Year comes into play. China is increasingly becoming an important global player, and their culture is becoming part of the international culture also, interaction. Everybody knows the influence of America in terms of culture across the whole spectrum, music, film, and this. It is a reflection of the dominance, economic dominance of America, which makes us admire what America and learn from what America does. Another new power with 1.4 billion people is coming onto the global stage with economic prowess, it increases the wealth of human interaction, because their products and services which they are giving to the world affect more and more of the population of the world, just like the Americans did. So we are happy with that, and we want to associate the people of Zimbabwe with the Chinese as they celebrate their Lunar New Year, which is the year of the dragon. We welcome the fact that the United Nations is now established it as a floating holiday, where you get paid for that holiday, even though it is not among the other official holidays, because you can't have every country. But there are many other. The Yom Kippur holiday for the Jewish people is recognized by the UN. So this is a good thing which is going on about the Chinese. So we want to say to the Chinese, a happy new year of the dragon. By the same token, of course, India celebrated its National Day. Australia did this week. So in all these instances, we see countries to which we are reaching out, extending their hands of friendship, and our president reciprocating, as he says, Zimbabwe wants to be a friend of all and an enemy to none. We are a country which just love to have our place in the sun. That's all. We have no gripes of historical nature, though we could have a lot in our memories, but we are not beholden to history. Our president, like I said, watches through the windshield, never through the rear view mirror. I want to thank you so much. President wedu vaMnangagwa vadzoka vanga vari pazororo, vatanga basa semagonero avo munhu anoda kuti nyika yake ibudirire. Nezuro vakanga vari kumatemberera south vachishaura chirongwa chegukurahundi. Tinofara zvachose nekuti president vari kuda kubatanidza mhuri yemuZimbabwe yese kuti ive ine chinangwa chimwe chete mukuvaka nyika yedu kwatiri kuita. Nyika yega yega painenge ichifambira mberi panogona kunetsana, panogona kumaranwa, panogona kuita kuti pasave nekuwirirana. Munhoroondo yedu isusu takadzoka toita jambwa rekuti muna 1963 senyika takapatsanura National Liberation Movement yedu, tikazoenda kunorwa hondo pave mapato maviri. Zvakaita kuti zvirambe zvichinetsa kuti tiwanane, asi taingoramba tichitsvagana. Mukutsvagana imomo panodzikawo dzimwe nyika nguva dzamunotsika nhanzva, zvinhu zvoenda pasiripo. Asi rombo rakanaka neZimbabwe nderekuti dzimwe nyika dzinobva dzazopinda mutsekwende inonzi civil war. Vanhu votatsurana kusvika pakuti havafe vakawirirana. America inoitidzidzisa civil war zvainoita. Angola yakaita civil war. Isu muno muZimbabwe takaramba kuti hazviitike. Saka president vari kuramba vachivaka nyika ino nenyaya yekuti hatidi zvinhu zvinotipatsanura. Saka tiri kuda kunadziridzana pane nyaya yegukurahundi zvakaitika. Vari kuzviita nemadzimambo nenzira yekuti vanhu vakashayika nevakakuwara, kana wafa unodzokera kumhuri yako, unodzokera kumusha kwako, unodzokera kuna sabhuku wako. Saka vane kodzero yekuti vange vachibatikana nenyaya iyoyi yemaronda enguva iyoyo. Ndivo machifu vakanga vachisangana napresident. Izvi zviri kuratidza pachena kuti president donzo ravo nemwoyo wavo wachena wekuti zvandiri kuita zviri ndezvokuti vakane. Vari kuzviita vaine tariro yekuita kuti zvive zviri pachena, zvekare zvive zvinogutsa ruzhinji. Izvi zvichatibatsira kuti vaya vanoda bonga mupopoto munyika nevanoda kuti inonzi mhenzva mukono, mhesva mukono dzinongoda kuti vanhu varwe, vashaya mukana wokuramba vachipatsanura vanhu muZimbabwe. Hatinoda kuvaka nyika yedu tiri pamwe chete. Saka chirongwa chegukurahundi tinochitambira zvachose, tichitenda president, tichikurudzira zvekare madzimambo vari kubatikana mune nyaya yekuti dai vachiita kuti chidzimi mavanga enguva yakashata yatakambotarisana nayo tichivaka nyika yedu. And tichinetarira kuti hakuna futi mune ramangwana kuti zvakadaro zvinozoitika futi. Hatichazvidi zvachose mune nyaya dzekuvaka nyika yedu, mune nyaya dzematongerwo enyika yeZimbabwe. taura zvekare nenyaya yekuti kutriple C vachamisa vati Zabato. Isusu tinotaura vachamisa kuti makaenda mukanobvuta masimba mubato iri mukati munoda kunzinzi wapusa muchida kuti mugotonga musina wamunoterera kunze kwevanotumaiwe kune dzimwe nyika. Zvino marumwa nechekuchera organization party yazokutandanisai manje. Zvino zvamaenda motoziva kuti vanhu vane zvivinemi vave nemukana wokunyatsoongorora matongero amaita bato iroro pamamakabata chigaro. Pane vanhu vazhinji vane zvironda imomuyo, pane mari dzakazikazikano dzakafamba sei. Madare emunyika munomu anomirira vanhu vese vane zvichemo zvavo nekodzero yekuti zvitongwe. Hapana anoramidza matare kuti atonge nyaya idzodzi. So handizivi kuti muchaenda kunovaka pati here imi musina kana ruzivo rwamakamboita rwokuivaka ndamakabvuta yevamwe vanhu mukati yangu. Zvino rwendo runochitsvambi chache kuti achamisa endai munovakawo yenyu kubvira pekutanga pachidhina chekutanga. Toda kuonawo ungwaru nounyanzvi hwenyu kuvaka pati. Asi musakanganwe kuti kumatare uku kune vamwe vamakatsika konzo vane zvichemo vane zvironda vari kuda kuti vanhadziridzwe. Saka hatizi kuti muchange muchiedza kuvaka pati yamusingagone kana kuti muchange muri mumatare makatarisana nemajaji. Kana majaji atonga hatizi kuti muchazoenda kupi, because panogona kubuda umbavhaka mari dzamaipiwa kuAmerica, mari dzamaipiwa kuBritain, mari dzamaipiwa kunze kwenyika dzinoda kuti dzakafamba sei. Vamaisendesa musingapei mari vanoda kuziva kuti dzakaenda kupi. Macandidates vakanga vachida kusapotwa mumaelections vachaya madeposits, imi muine chikwama chemari chisingazikanwa chiri kufamba sei. Pamakatarisana napaachamisa apa pakati omei.